GTA San Andreas. In 2005, Rockstar Games found itself in the middle of a political firestorm, all because of a hidden minigame buried deep inside GTA San Andreas. Known as the Hot Coffee mod, this wasn't just a racy side mission. It was fully coded, graphic content that wasn't supposed to be accessed by players. But modders unlocked it anyway, and once it hit the internet, it exploded. The ESRB quickly re-rated the game from mature to adults only, effectively banning it from most major retailers. Rockstar tried to claim it was unauthorized, but the truth slipped out. The content had been in the game all along. Senators like Hillary Clinton used it as fuel for stricter video game regulations, and mainstream media ran wild with it. Rockstar was forced to pull copies off shelves, reissue a new version, and settle lawsuits. But by then, the damage was done. One hidden adults-only scene had turned a blockbuster game into a national scandal. And just when Rockstar thought that he had cooled down, another kind of fire was about to ignite. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Few missions in gaming history stirred as much outrage as No Russian from Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. You play as an undercover CIA agent embedded with Russian terrorists, and the mission? Walk through an airport and mow down innocent civilians. Players had the option to skip it, but just the fact that it existed sent shockwaves through the media. In some countries, the mission was censored entirely. Russia banned the game outright. News outlets accused Call of Duty of glorifying terrorism, while politicians warned it could desensitize players to real-world violence. Infinity Ward defended the mission, calling it a narrative device meant to evoke emotion and shock. But for many, that defense didn't fly. The controversy didn't kill sales, the game still shattered records, but it raised serious questions about where the line is in interactive storytelling. Should players ever be given this kind of choice? Or had gaming finally crossed a line it couldn't walk back from? Star Wars Battlefront 2. When Star Wars Battlefront 2 launched in 2017, fans were hyped, until they saw the grind. Darth Vader? Locked behind 40 hours of gameplay, unless you paid. The game was packed with loot boxes, random rewards tied directly to power. It wasn't just cosmetics, it was full-on pay-to-win. Gamers revolted. On Reddit, EA tried to defend the system, calling it a sense of pride and accomplishment. That comment became the most downvoted post in Reddit history, and it didn't stop there. The backlash hit mainstream media, and even governments took notice. Belgium and the Netherlands ruled that loot boxes violated gambling laws. Hawaii lawmakers introduced bills targeting predatory practices in games. EA was forced to overhaul Battlefront 2's economy, removing paid advantages entirely. This wasn't just a PR disaster, it changed the way the industry looked at microtransactions. Suddenly, surprise mechanics weren't just annoying, they were under legal fire. And while EA scrambled to repair its image, another massive franchise was about to break, in a way that no one could miss. Pokémon Scarlet and Violet. When Pokémon Scarlet and Violet launched in late 2022, fans expected evolution. What they got was far worse. From trainers clipping through the ground to distorted character models and slideshow frame rates, the bugs were everywhere. Social media exploded with clips, turning the game into an instant meme factory. And this wasn't a small indie release. This was Pokémon, the highest-grossing franchise on the planet. Fans accused Game Freak of rushing development and cutting corners to meet holiday deadlines. Despite being riddled with technical flaws, the game still sold over 10 million copies in just 3 days, a record-breaking number that only made critics more frustrated. Many saw it as a sign that the Pokémon brand had become too big to fail. Players begged for patches and accountability, but the message was clear: even a broken Pokémon game would print money. For some, it was just a glitchy good time. For others, it was a wake-up call about quality control in AAA gaming. But while this mess went viral, another controversy was quietly brewing. Metroid Dread. Metroid Dread was a surprise hit in 2021. Sleek, atmospheric, and praised as a triumphant return for the series. But behind the scenes, something ugly was brewing. Days after launch, several developers who had worked on the game at Mercury Steam came forward claiming they had been left out of the credits entirely. These weren't small contributions either. Some had worked on design, modeling, and environments for nearly a year. Their names were nowhere to be found. Mercury Steam responded by saying only team members who made significant contributions were credited, a vague and arbitrary standard that sparked serious backlash. Industry professionals and players alike criticized the move as exploitative, especially in an industry already plagued by burnout and underevaluation of creative labor. The hashtag #CreditAllWorkers started trending, pushing for transparency and fair recognition. Metroid Dread may have won awards, but the controversy left a bitter aftertaste for many. For some fans, it raised a chilling question. If even award-winning devs can be erased, how many more go unseen? Night Trap. In 1993, a cheesy, low-budget FMV game called Night Trap unexpectedly found itself at the center of a US Senate hearing. The game featured players monitoring security cameras in a house full of teenage girls trying to protect them from masked intruders. It was campy and clunky, but politicians painted it as a danger to kids everywhere. Senators like Joe Lieberman and Herb Kohl zeroed in on it, claiming it promoted violence and other wrongdoings. They lumped Night Trap in with Mortal Kombat, and suddenly, video games were public enemy number one. The outrage reached parents, schools, and the national media, despite the fact that Night Trap was actually rated for teens and had no explicit content. Still, the pressure worked. Major retailers pulled the game, and Sega had to defend itself on Capitol Hill. And while that storm passed, the next controversy would hit where it hurts most: fan expectations. The Last of Us Part 2. In 2020, The Last of Us Part 2 was poised to become one of the most anticipated sequels in gaming history, until everything leaked. Weeks before release, major plot twists, character deaths, and entire cutscenes surfaced online. Fans were furious, not just because of spoilers, but because of what the spoilers revealed. The game killed off beloved characters early, shifted focus to new protagonists, and took narrative risks that divided the entire fanbase. Some praised the emotional depth and bold direction. Others accused Naughty Dog of betrayal, abandoning what made the original so loved. The backlash was instant. Review bombing flooded Metacritic, and voice actors received threats. The leaks had already lit the fire, but once the game officially dropped, conversation got even more intense. Still, the controversy didn't stop the awards. Part 2 swept Game of the Year honors and shattered sales records, but it also showed how quickly hype can turn hostile, especially when fans feel blindsided. And while Naughty Dog was busy weathering the storm, another developer made headlines for who they left out of the game entirely: Assassin's Creed Unity. In 2014, Ubisoft was riding high on the success of the Assassin's Creed franchise, but when they unveiled Unity, they walked right into a controversy. The game featured a 4-player co-op mode, but not a single female assassin. When asked why, the Ubisoft rep said adding women would have required double the work: new animations, voice acting, and design. That one sentence lit up the internet. Critics and fans alike blasted the studio, pointing out that Assassin's Creed had featured playable female characters before, and that Ubisoft, a AAA studio with massive resources, could absolutely afford to make it happen. Developers from other studios chimed in, saying adding a female character wasn't nearly as hard as Ubisoft claimed. The backlash wasn't just about Unity, it was about representation and how women continued to be sidelined in major franchises. Ubisoft later walked back that statement, but the damage was done. Unity launched with technical problems and a PR nightmare, and just a few years later, another Rockstar title had faced a very different kind of fire. Bully. When Rockstar announced Bully in 2005, panic set in before anyone had even played it. The title alone was enough to trigger outrage. Critics claimed the game would teach kids how to torment each other. Some said it was a Columbine simulator. Florida lawyer Jack Thompson, a longtime critic of Rockstar, filed lawsuits to block the game's release altogether. But when Bully finally dropped, it wasn't what people expected. The protagonist wasn't a bully, he fought against them. Still, controversy swirled. The game featured kissing between male students, earning it headlines and bans in Brazil and parts of Europe. In the UK, it was briefly renamed Canis Canem Edit, just to avoid bad press. Despite the media storm, the game found a loyal fan base and was later hailed as one of Rockstar's most creative titles. But the controversy around it showed how fear, politics, and headlines could distort what a game actually was. Mass Effect 3. For years, Mass Effect had built a legacy around player choice. Every dialogue, every mission, every death, all of it was supposed to shape your ending. But when Mass Effect 3 dropped in 2012, fans were stunned. After hundreds of decisions across 3 games, the ending boiled down to 3 nearly identical cutscenes. Players felt betrayed. The internet exploded with rage, memes, and detailed breakdowns showing how their choices hadn't really mattered. Forums filled with posts accusing BioWare of false advertising. Some fans even filed complaints with the FTC over deceptive marketing. The backlash grew so intense that BioWare released an extended cut months later, adding more context and slightly altered outcomes. It helped, but the damage was already done. What had been a beloved trilogy ended in controversy, dividing a once loyal community. For many, it was the first time a gaming ending sparked a full-blown movement. It wasn't just disappointment, it was a lesson. Promise players the universe, and you'd better deliver. Because in video games, do things are more dangerous than a loyal fanbase that feels lied to. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.